It tells me that goose-stepping morons like yourself should try reading books instead of burning them. Here's your look at the Hasbro Indiana Jones Adventure Series Build an Artifact, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Henry Jones Sr. Indiana Jones races against the forces of evil to find the Holy Grail and keep it from falling into the wrong hands. Kids and collectors alike can imagine the action and adventure of Indiana Jones with figures from the Indiana Jones Adventure series. With exquisite features and decoration, this series unearths the quality and realism that Indiana Jones devotees love. I think while Indy's dad listens to Nazis talking in their sleep, we're going to go ahead and grab the tape measure and see how tall the figure stands. Then we'll bring in a couple of the other Indiana Jones from at least the Last Crusade for comparison's sake. Henry Jones Sr. stands 6 inches exactly, or the figure is going to be about 15 centimeters tall. Out of the 6 figures that are part of this artifact wave, really only 4 of them are Last Crusade. Indy's dad here, for example, is one of the 4 figures. The other 2 that we've looked at was still 1 remaining. We still have to look at the Grail Knight. But here's what Henry Jones Sr. looks like with his son. Even though they really named the dog Indiana, here's what he looks like with Indiana Jones. And here's also what she looks like, or what he looks like, with one that chose the wrong goblets, Dr. Elsa Schneider. Even though really we've already finished the tabletop, Henry Jones at least comes with some of the finishing touches that can go on top of the table. First of all, he comes included with this silver saucer. The silver dish does actually have like a little clip down below here. If you look at actually the table, there's these slots on either side. He only really fills one of them. Just take that, plug that in place. And now you've got yourself the actual dish that sits on top of the table like it does in the movie. He also comes included with these extra goblets, some of which you may choose. In fact, actually, if you were to choose any one of these, you'd be choosing wrong, and we all know the outcome of that. But you get one that's gold and adorned here with rubies. You get one that's a little bit more simpler and looks like it's made in silver. And these actually do, if you look at the table, have sort of these indentations. There's not really necessarily a specified place where they have to go, but if you want to just like take them, for example, and they can just sit on the table like that. There is technically one other goblet. We're just going to bring back in Elsa here. Give me that. We're going to go ahead and take her goblet. The goblet can also go there as well. I mean, obviously, anybody that would be going for the glitz and glam would go with a much larger looking goblet, but again, you'd be choosing wrong. He also comes included with a dish that's on fire. The fire is nicely molded here in what looks to be almost like an orangey red plastic, and then they painted the bottom of it in yellow. And that can also sit on top of the table. I think it sits more into the back, but again, actually, I think it sits over here. And there's also a few touches still left to go. The Grail Knight, when we look at him, will also come included with the sword, and I think also the correct chalice. And that's, of course, going to go on the top there as well. So at least we have we have most of the table, really. If you didn't even really want to get the Grail Knight, even though that is technically the right goblet to choose, you really already have the finished table. I'm going to carefully move it off to the side without banging over any of them. Now, the accessories that, though, are specific to Henry is the fact that he comes, first of all, with a bag. The bag is made of really chunky plastic, really heavy plastic, in fact. It does have some nice weathering done to it, similar, in fact, to actually Indiana Jones's jacket. It does have the clasp there on the top here in silver, and Henry can actually hold this in his hand, but does add a lot of extra weight to it. What's rather ironic, though, is if you actually look at the figure itself, which I'll bring more in a moment, he actually looks exactly, I mean, he has really the same building blocks as Jurgen that we've already had a look at, and I'm going to bring that figure in more in a moment. But also, though, the figure comes included with his umbrella, or his parasol. Now, he uses this in the movie. I mean, he chases some ducks. It was ducks, geese. He chases them on the beach. He has that included. That can, of course, fit in the figure's hands. I mean, all this talk of fitting things in figures' hands, let's actually just do that. Take the parasol, put the umbrella in his hand. I don't know why I'm calling it a parasol. Do you call it a parasol? Do you call it an umbrella? Do you call it the thing that keeps the rain off your head? You can also as well take the bag. I just pried the finger actually a little bit away from his hand. And you can actually have him holding the bag that way as well. The problem with it, though, is that the thumb gets in the way of things. And there's what the figure looks like with both the umbrella and the bag. He also as well comes included with the diary. The diary is what I'm guessing being molded in brown. They've painted the side that would be the pages, and then actually the elasticized part, the elastic part that actually would wrap around the book has nicely been painted in black as well. And this can also really fit in his hands, although already occupied the space with both the umbrella and the bag. You're going to have to really choose. Like choosing the goblet, you're going to have to make sure you choose wisely as to which one you want to have displayed with Henry Jones Sr. Last of the figure's accessories, though, involve me, first of all, just to remove those other things that were very attached onto his hands. Not that it really matters, but it'd just be a lot easier to kind of move the figure around. He comes included, first of all, with his glasses. In order to accommodate a head sculpt this size, they have to give him these really wonky looking glasses. They look like old TV antennas. The glasses are really irregularly shaped. You can see like the lenses on the front are a nice translucent clear plastic. But I mean, again, to accommodate his face, they have to give him these really strange looking frames that are warped on the sides. These fit just over his ears. I just want to hook it on the one side and then carefully without dropping onto the floor. Now, I've jinxed myself by saying that. It actually hooks nicely really on the other ear as well. I feel it also fits his face a little bit better than Jurgen we looked at before. It just unfortunately means, though, the glasses have to be extremely warped to accommodate his head sculpt, but at least they sit nicely on his face, and it certainly does make him a lot more, even though he does bear a very strong likeness to Henry Jones Sr. and also Sean Connery, of course, very famous actor that played the role. I think there was actually only a few years separated between him and Harrison Ford, which is somewhat ironic as well, but he certainly looks the part. He looks a lot like Henry Jones. And of course, to complete that, he also comes included with the hat. The hat's a fairly soft plastic. It's just a case of actually fitting it over top of his head. There is not really, well, there's a way specifically to put it. You kind of have to put it, if you look at it like this, these little areas on the sides will clearly go over top of his ears. He basically just fit it over top of his head. Just be careful, though, you're not knocking the glasses in the process. I find it's actually easier to put the glasses on first, then the hat on second, and then you can enjoy the figure the third. It's a really nice looking head sculpt overall, and I think it's definitely one of the better ones we've gotten here. I mean, I'm also comparing as well in the mix for that, the Ronaldo that we looked at earlier, even though really like Ronaldo does not, I'm sorry, belong at all in this wave. Now, I did mention earlier, though, Dr. Jürgen Voller. If you bring the figure in fact, while the jackets are very different and underneath the jacket is very different also as well, he happens to share the same arms, and he also shares exactly the same feet. The shoes look to be slightly different from one another, although really, again, looking at them, they might actually be even identical too. So sharing, yes, the same legs, same feet, same arms also as well. Unfortunately, though, it also means, because he's using Voller's hands, that Henry Sr. also has a trigger-firing hand for no apparent reason whatsoever. Seriously, though, could they not have just, I mean, even just to bring in Indiana Jones from also The Last Crusade, what is it about all of these figures that they have to have trigger-firing finger hands, and yet none of the figures really come included with guns? I don't even think really, did Indiana Jones? Yes, he did. Came also included with a gun. But it makes a little more sense with Indy, and it makes a lot less sense for Henry Jones. So other than just the fact that it's a little strange to have his hand looking like this, again, it's a really nice looking Henry Jones. The jacket's going to be a little bit tooled differently from Voller we looked at from before. He does have the vest underneath there that's painted slightly a darker shade of this beige that he has for his jacket. The sleeves actually match pretty closely also to the jacket that they've used for the material, because of course this is softer plastic, this is a harder plastic, and the legs also match pretty consistently there also as well. The thing also about this, though, is one thing, bringing back in Jürgen for discussion, is that he does have a ball joint right here at the base of the neck, and then of course he has the ball joint at the top of the head there. But because there is a ball joint right there, the similar problem I really had with Voller is that because in order to accommodate a ball joint here, it means it leaves this cut area where it does look like the collar has been completely cut from the rest of his shirt. It looks a little out of place, and honestly, I feel like, well, normally I'd be very embracing the idea of getting additional articulation for these figures. I feel like figures like this really could have easily just benefited from ball joints in their head. They didn't really necessarily need it for the neck. Indy, maybe yes. When it comes to his father, I know obviously they're going to be using the exact same bodies, or kind of like the same building blocks for the bodies. I really don't think necessarily Henry needed to have the articulation point right there, because it means it sacrifices a very obvious cut right there on his shirt. For the figure's articulation, though, carefully moving his head back and forth, because I don't want to actually knock the glasses off. The head does rotate back and forth. It looks up, it looks down. And I already mentioned he does have also the ball joint at the base of the neck, so that also shifts back and forth too. It doesn't shift to the extent of Voller, where before you know it, the tie's way off to the side. The bow tie stays pretty much in the center section. Of course, underneath all that, he does also have a ball joint at the base of his body. So like right underneath his vest, he has a ball joint that allows the torso to rotate all the way around. The arms come out easily at 90 degrees. You could even just say it goes even beyond 90 degrees, but the arms do also rotate all the way around on both sides. He has a single hinge in the elbow, but it allows at least the forearm to rotate back and forth. He also has, again, the hands that rotate all the way around. And when you look to the lower half of the figure's body, ball joints are greeted to you at the door. There's two ball joints at the base, right there at the top of the thigh. And 3/4 of the way up the thigh, there's also a swivel cut, so you can rotate those all the way around. The figure has a single hinge in the knee that allows at least as well the rotation of the lower leg. And like all the other figures we've looked at already, he also has an ankle pivot this way and an ankle pivot this way as well. Nice looking figure though, really nice looking figure. I'm actually the happiest I feel with getting Henry Jones. If it was just a case where I wasn't even all that concerned with building the table, I still would have actually picked up Henry Jones. I still would have picked up Henry Jones because honestly, I'm more interested really in getting the Indiana Jones from The Last Crusade than I really am getting figures from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Bringing those other figures we've already had a look at. 4 figures out of 6. Criminal, I feel, because again, like I really think that Dial of Destiny could have easily been its own standalone wave and just sold the figures separately. They didn't even have to really belong with the table at all. But we have one last figure to look at. One last figure. That's the Grail Knight. And of course, when it's all said and done, we can slide these figures all over here. And we'll bring back in, of course, the table that we've completed so far. There's 2 left things still to add. There's a slot here on the side, and there's also, again, like the one missing goblet, the correct goblet, the Cup of Christ. And of course, that will be also completed when we look eventually at the Grail Knight. Now, I did say that Sean Connery really wasn't that much older than Harrison Ford at the time that the 2 actors filmed Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And actually, really, the age difference between the 2 were only 12 years apart. So you had to suspend some disbelief to the idea that Henry Jones Sr. would have followed Indiana Jones when only he was 12 years old. But the chemistry really between the actors, Sean Connery and Harrison Ford, were movie magic when they were on screen. And if anything, it's a shame that the 2 actors couldn't have come back for a follow-up sequel, because I would have loved to see continued adventures with Henry Jones Sr. and his son. Hey, why not even bring the dog in the mix too as well? Now, when it comes to a release here in plastic form, I feel he's more justified to get a release than, say, Ronaldo. And it's still not going to be knocking the fact that we get ourselves Dial of Destiny figures. But come on, Hasbro. We get 6 figure slots to build the table. Could they not have, in fact, been all Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? Even if we weren't teased by the idea that Henry Sr. came included with parts for the table, I still would have bought him if he was sold separately. Now, with all the things that he comes included with, I don't feel at all he's been wasted with plastic. He comes included with the umbrella, which is necessary, the bag, of course, included, and, of course, the diary are all things I feel the figure should have belonged with. And if that wasn't enough, he comes included with things that you can adorn the table with only the few little slots remaining that are going to go along with the Grail Knight when we look at him in his upcoming review. What do you guys think of Henry Jones Sr.? Do you feel like he might be the best figure from this wave? I would say yes. I'd say yes. I know I said earlier, certainly, that Ronaldo was the best-looking head sculpt, but still, I don't think Ronaldo belonged. I'm sorry, Antonia. I know you're watching these videos. Antonia, I have to say it, though. You really never belonged in as part of this wave. This wave solely should have been The Last Crusade and Last Crusade only. But man, I'm so glad to finally get ourselves a Henry Jones Sr. that's going to go nicely on display with all the rest of the Indiana Jones figures I've collected so far. What do you guys think of the figure? Let me know again down below in the comments section. Also, as well, if you guys enjoyed this video, why not throw it a like? If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and you're a bit sad by the fact that we are going to be wrapping up Indiana Jones soon, we only still have one left figure to go, and that's going to be, of course, the Grail Knight. His review will be right around the corner, but the key to making sure that you're not missing a beat on any of this at all, is by already hitting that subscribe button down below. If you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and you're as well turning on the bell notification. It's a 2-step process. It's not as confusing, of course, as looking at floor tiles and making sure you're stepping in the right place, but make sure, of course, you hit those 2 things so you're always in the know whenever the person behind the camera is posting up new content. Of course, as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.